Hi, so how the hell are you?
We're recording late in the month.
Yes, we are. We
I
just
blame
kind of forgot last weekend.
Yeah, and I blame September. No, September sucked.
We definitely got our last one in late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not even just for the podcast, just so much stuff was happening between my schedule impending change and
Yeah.
your loss of the van.
Yeah, that was September, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just
I try not to think about it.
Yeah. A lot sort of took precedence,
Yeah, it did. Yeah, you're right.
and I think we're just in taking October to take a damn breath.
Yeah, I feel like we say that a lot. So first topic.
Yeah, we're gonna get right into it.
Yeah, well, kind of. So the first topic isn't actually even part of our overall topic, but I did want to bring up the idea of getting feedback from the audience, and we've played around with the idea of having a guest.
Okay.
And so I kind of wanted to throw that out there and talk about it on record so that if people out there listening, if there's anyone out there listening who actually wants to contribute or ask a question or even let us know that we have an audience, that they could do that.
Yeah, make use of those comments.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
We are kind of at that point where we only have, I think, 4 subscribers, and their last names are all Brandon.
Yeah, I don't feel like this is one of the things that just needs that.
No, I mean, we agreed from the beginning that's not what this was about.
Right.
It is basically, the audience is just witnessing our therapy session.
Yeah, we're just basically getting this on a massive public record.
Yeah, which is funny because then you edit the shit out of it.
I never edit anything that's important.
I could not argue with you anymore about it.
That's right.
But the first one, there were a lot of good things said and done in that session, and you just edited it all because you didn't want the public to actually see what we were like.
I call bullshit on that.
Okay.
No,
I mean, we saved it all, so we can go back.
Yeah, I call bullshit on your conclusion.
Okay.
Because we saved this. I didn't get rid of anything. It's just there. It just didn't fit.
The first episode.
That was not an episode. That was us not knowing what the hell we were doing, not having a clue.
No, that was us getting into some deep wounds.
That's just bad broadcasting.
Whatever. Anyway, you're my deep wound.
You don't have to live here, you know. Or do you?
I don't have to. I am choosing to. All right, so back to the question is, do you think we should have a guest? What would we talk about? Who would it be?
Okay. Should we have a guest? Should isn't the right word, but I'm absolutely happy to.
Yeah.
What should we talk about? Well, that depends on the guest. Who should we invite? I don't want to invite anybody. I want to see who's naturally...
Who wants to naturally just sit here and...
Right. So it'll naturally fill that one in.
Yeah. So I guess that's the question. Who wants to come on and just bicker with us? Right?
I think the only person I might prod, just out of sheer... I'm not sure if it's sadism or masochism. It could go either way. Mm-hmm. Is try to get my mom on the line.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that is a little bit of...
That could go so many ways.
Yeah. And I feel like you would go into that like a therapy session. You would go into it predetermined on how it's going to go and try and manipulate it.
Oh, that
yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally that thing. Yeah. My therapy sessions, not generic therapy sessions.
No. Your therapy session.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
See, you chide me for that, but you want to talk about the real us? That's the real me.
Manipulating situations?
Yes. And yeah, presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Literally nothing to say about that. So.
Damn right.
Okay, so for our actual topic, do you know what it is today?
I forget how you phrased it, but sort of building off our chatter to begin with, the impression I got was, it's all about me.
It always.
No.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Okay, so explain the topic.
No, I would like you to do that, actually.
Why? Because you don't know?
I don't understand.
Okay.
I'm not clear on the topic.
So this month we are talking about ego.
Ah, there you go.
You have a very strange ego dynamic mixed in with self-hatred and...
Yeah, no, it's my ego structure. It's self-centered, self-loathing.
Yeah, it is, very much so. So we're going to talk about that and just ego in general.
Right.
I put a few notes in that I found on therapy sites and things like that, because you know how I like to always link these things.
As you should.
Yeah, but so then the second half of that topic, though, is your ego when it comes to watching television specifically, and always being able to predict a story. And I guess that's not television specific.
Right. And here's just by way of clarifying it for me and any listeners. Are we defining ego in the colloquial sense or in the actual psychological sense as it balances the id and the superego?
I mean, maybe both, but probably colloquial. Colloquial. Yes. Yep, that word.
Right.
Yeah.
Which tends to get just lumped in as a general sense of self-importance, which is not entirely accurate, but there we are.
I mean, obviously the psychology part is going to come into it because, therapy.
It's just an important distinction.
Yeah. So we'll start with just a few descriptions of ego. And there's actually what is called a good ego.
Damn right.
I didn't know that there was such a thing. I've always thought of ego as negative.
Well, again, that brings it back to the psychological definition, where it is a required part of the tripod.
Yeah, you're right. So it's described as indifferent to the well-being of others, selfish, and that's just how I've always thought of someone's ego, right? I have also known lots of narcissists though too, so maybe that's where I get muddled. But a good ego it's how you make decisions, set personal boundaries, and maintain self-esteem. You take care of yourself, you feel good about who you are, and you stand up for your values. These are signs of a healthy ego. It's when your ego takes over that wars begin.
I'd like to point out that despite your assertion that I manipulate and edit the truth for these recordings, I'm the first one to have an episode all about, you know what your problem is? I'm the one who's putting myself under scrutiny.
I'm pretty sure I put myself under.
No, we don't have an episode that is just about focusing on you and you know what your problem is.
Well, no, only this one is focusing on you, though. Have you had another that's focused on you?
No, I'm saying that's what I said. I'm the first person to get an episode that's.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So come up with an idea that focuses just on me then.
And maybe I will, but I don't. Unlike you, I'm not in a rush to put you under such a strained microscope. I care about
that. Is not what I'm doing. I wanted to link that whole thing that we had talked about, you always predicting the end of stories.
Yeah.
So this started a while back when Max likes a good mystery. You like Agatha Christie, you like Sherlock Holmes, you like all of these types of stories.
I blame Encyclopedia Brown.
Okay.
That's where it started.
Yeah, okay. You were the type of kid who would read trivia cards.
Yes. One of my earliest memories of spending time with family. This was probably far more formative than I've realized up until recently. The happiest memories I have spending time with family as a child would be my mom, my Aunt Terry, my Uncle Rocky, and for when occasionally my Aunt Mary, but also for a time my Aunt Beth. Mm-hmm. I have memories of them all sitting around playing Trivial Pursuit, in the 80s. And I kind of sat at the table, and I was given the job to put the cards away because there's a special. You got to put the cards. You got to make sure, and that was my job. And they would hand me a card, and they'd all be joking about stuff that I barely understood. Though I caught on pretty quick. But in those times, what I would do is I would just read the whole card. I'd read the question, then read the answer. Then I'd read the next question, and I'd read the answer. So it began an eventual, the trivia is in there. It's all in there somewhere. It's just a matter of how will I be able to access it later. But anyway, the most formative part of that was I associate that with bliss. Mm-hmm. It's the most blissful thing I can think of from my childhood. Sitting around, playing a game, joking around with your family.
Yeah.
Period. End of sentence.
Yeah. Well, and what you didn't know then was that it would then, as an adult, give you your greatest pleasure, which is always knowing the answer.
It does help.
You love, especially for your siblings, that they'll text you something and you're like, yep, I got the answer.
I don't love it. I like interacting with them, and I know that
It makes you useful.
Okay, well,
Is that what it is?
yeah, maybe, yes. But this may be the crux of the question that you're asking me in a nutshell. I don't have many uses.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have one, it feels nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to be sure not to overdo things.
Okay. I mean, I know where you're going. So then when is the first time you could remember watching or reading something, predicting the end, and actually being surprised or happy or whatever about that's actually how it ended? Figured it out before they did.
With stuff like, the previously mentioned Encyclopedia Brown or the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew, it's all kind of a mush. I couldn't tell you when that kicked in. The Sherlock Holmes, I started reading in 4th grade, and I never predicted those, but nobody ever does. That's almost the point. It's not, those were actually at the time controversial in terms of being considered mysteries because they weren't. The idea you weren't invited to solve it, it was just, look how smart this guy is. So those don't necessarily count. But the first mystery, structured as a mystery, where the audience is invited to take a guess before they're told, the first grown-up one that I solved it before I got to the end, and so I have a soft spot for this story, is Murder on the Orient Express.
Mm-hmm.
I figured it out before I got to the end. I was maybe in the 4th or 5th grade, and I was super proud of myself because it was a very outside-the-box ending, and I came and I got there. I was very happy.
And then even in the theater, when you went to go see the movie, you knew the ending essentially, but they had kind of switched it, and so someone was about to die, and you realized it a few minutes.
That was Death on the Nile.
Oh, okay.
Which there was elements of that in Murder on the Orient Express, but it was much less pronounced. It was more about watching it play out and watching the performances of the cast playing to it. Death on the Nile changed the path considerably, thus bringing the ending into question. And it was less about, and granted, they did land on essentially the same ending, but the people you lost along the way, who you invested in, who survived in the book, didn't survive in the movie, that became the thrill. And spoilers for this movie, they had a character carry over from Orient Express who did not carry over in the books. It was Monsieur Book, who basically serves as a Watson. He's somebody for Poirot to explain things to, and thus to the audience. And he was serving the same function here for the most part. And I'm going through it, and it's like, okay, this character from the book is missing. This character from the book has been combined into this character, and that kind of stuff. So I'm piecing it all together. But it never occurred to me that Book was anything other than Book. He was Watson again. And then as one of the plots is revealed that he actually had a hand in, it's go, oh, so Book is confined with this character. Oh, no. Yeah. And then the second, literally, I think I audibly said, oh, no, in the theater as it occurred to me. And then bam.
Yeah.
And Kenneth Branagh, actually, the way he edited and directed the scene, his Poirot was caught off guard. And it literally, the way he plays it, it takes him like 20 seconds to realize his friend was shot because he can't grasp it. And I figure it's just, Kenneth Branagh's a great actress. It's just Mon ami Book, and he just kind of, and it goes for it, and then that moment of the shooter's nearby, and then just watching him click into, oh, I'm going to get this assault, and it becomes a personal.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go through a few that I've just written down.
Yeah.
And then you can talk to them as you feel necessary. So, Better Call Saul.
Oh, are we getting into that statement that I'm better at TV than TV?
Yes.
Okay.
The Others.
Okay.
Harry Potter, and then, of course, Dexter, which is the big one.
Right.
So, wait for Dexter till the end.
I'll probably drop in a little bit of Game of Thrones, too.
That's probably fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be noted, neither one of us read the books before watching any of the show.
Yeah. So I'm going to start talking what I think you mean by Better Call Saul, and feel free to correct me at any point in my stream of consciousness. I feel like, because as a prequel series to Breaking Bad, the question then becomes, you're looking for traits that are absent and how they're going to form. Because by the time I finished Breaking Bad, I knew what the writers were capable of. I knew that this team of people isn't going to produce something that's throwaway. So you're always on the lookout. It's a very visually storytelling show, but also it's great character work.
Yeah.
And their presentation of Jimmy McGill, who we know will turn into Saul Goodman, was very interesting. So you're looking for the traits in common, the traits he does not have yet, and how he will get them.
Mhm.
And then it becomes, that's the game. And then my brain is going back, sifting through Breaking Bad, thinking, oh, I remember that. I know what this is. Like the first time that one of the early episodes with Saul, where they have him out in the desert in front of a dug grave, and he's trying to talk his way out of it. And Saul says something to the effect of, "It wasn't me, it was Nacho." And it was a throwaway line that Breaking Bad never returned to. It was just something they gave him to say. At the time, it had no meaning. It was something to him to say. And then they go back, years later, start Better Call Saul, and they introduce a major character named Nacho. And then all of a sudden, I remember that. I remembered that stupid little line, and I started thinking, oh, where is this going?
Yeah.
And I started piecing it together, and I was just enthralled. And whether this is my ability to predict or not remains to be seen, because I have, the show is finished, and I have been dodging spoilers left and right.
Good for you.
Because I want to see how it plays out. I want to see the fates of all the characters, because there's only one I know for a fact. Well, that's not true. There's a couple of characters I know for a fact live, but of the characters that I'm truly invested in, I know only one gets out. Because I'm not invested in Gus. Gus's story is told later. He's simply here.
Yeah.
I'm not invested in Mike, because you're never really supposed to be invested in Mike.
No, but
Mike's
also,
a presence.
No.
He is a presence, but he's almost like a guide character. He moves other people's stories from here to there in the most wonderful way.
And he connects them all.
Well, yeah. He's the Breaking Badiverse Gandalf.
Yeah.
Mike Ehrmantraut is Breaking Bad's Gandalf. Their gruff voice cussing Gandalf. Come on, Frodo.
The others.
You remember why I mentioned that? That's when I realized maybe I should keep my mouth shut, because what I thought was just, well, you're watching something that's a mystery. Of course, people guess. That's just how you watch mysteries with people. And that's when I realized that it was starting to ruin it for people. And I'm watching this. It's a great Nicole Kidman thriller, kind of set after World War I believe, between the World Wars. Maybe it was World War II. And she's a woman living in a big house with her kids. Her husband went off to war. He's played by Christopher Eccleston. It's a small role, but he's very good in it. The servants, for the most part, have left, so they're just kind of alone in this big house. And they're going through, and then there's these creaks. Things are being moved around. Doors are being left open. Lights are turned on. And they're referring to these people that are messing with them as the others. I remember I was watching this, and I leaned over to Heather. We were still married at the time, and I go, oh, I bet Nicole Kidman and the kids are dead, and that the others are people moving into the house. And what we think is humans trying to run off ghosts is ghosts trying to run off humans. We're seeing it from the other way around. And I just kind of laid it all out. And she looked at me, you better not be right. I'm just guessing. And it was exactly what it was. I was like halfway through, and I had it all figured out. Like, oh yeah, that's what it is. I just blurted it all out.
Yeah. And then working against you was Harry Potter.
Yeah, I really ended up really enjoying those books.
I loved the books.
Yeah. Heather was into it. She had read the books and then seen the movie, so she was kind of going back and forth. And I just was like, sure, okay. I mean, it's kids' fantasy, whatever. I mean, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's wonderful. I figured I'd aged out of this, and it wasn't that it was bad. It just wasn't for me. And I'm not one of those people that everything has to be for me. There can exist all kinds of wonderful things in the world that I'm not the audience for, and I figured this is just one of them. And I remember when the third one, Prisoner of Azkaban, was coming out.
Azkaban.
Is that what I said? Azkaban. Prisoner of Azkaban. Was coming out, and I'm watching this.
And you had not read this book.
I have not read any of the books. Yeah. And I was watching the trailers for it, and I was most interested because they were getting out to somebody who was a very sort of interesting director, especially at the time, Alfonso Cuarón, who had not done like family-friendly stuff to that point. He was a very much sort of an edgy Mexican auteur.
Did he do the last four?
No, he just did the one.
Oh, just three. Okay.
Yeah, but it was an interesting choice. Like, okay, this is interesting. I'll kind of pay better attention to this movie, if nothing else for that. And then I'm watching this, and it's got, of course, Gary Oldman in it. And they're doing so really great visuals of him screaming in the Wanted poster. But that's cool. and then like the all of his prison tattoos were mystical symbols. Okay, this is visually the movie was interesting to me, but the more I learned about the plot, sort of through osmosis, is like, okay, his character's name is Sirius Black, and they hired Gary Oldman. You're not even trying to hide it. It was like, this is so obvious. And I'm like, but hey, I want to see the movie. It looks like visually it's going to be a treat. So I go, and they get to that reveal. I'm like, oh,
And
okay.
that's why you hire Gary Oldman.
Got it.
Is to trick even you.
This is a hell of a misdirect.
Yeah.
So okay, got it. I am on board. So I immediately decided I was going to read the books, and then shortly after that, by pure happenstance, I was in a car accident. I was laid up on a sofa for about a good week, and I think I read like 4 books in 7 days.
Yeah.
I think it was 3.5 because the fourth is a doorstop.
Yeah.
But the first 3 are fast reads. But I feel like the 4th book was when the editors just started letting her go.
Maybe, but I mean, that was a huge transition into, okay, shit's getting real now, I think.
Yeah, well,
because it was cute and we knew that there was something in the background scary that did once happen, but then we were getting into scary shit again.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm wondering if she could have gotten away with making those 2 books.
I mean, you can consider it transitional, I guess, but we know how Joanne Rowling feels about transitioning.
Right.
The other time that something happened similar was Game of Thrones, where I pretty quickly got its number. And for a while there, you could almost predict it by, okay, what's the thing that's most likely to happen? Okay, what's the opposite of that? That's the thing that's going to happen.
Right.
And I had a pretty good record for the most part of the first season. Where it threw me for a loop, and then I knew I was hooked, was Khal Drogo's death. They had invested so much time in setting up this relationship and him having this little mini arc that it didn't occur to me that he was going to die. What I thought was he was going to have to make a choice
between the first season.
Right. My assumption was he was going to have to make the choice between her and his army, and he would choose her, and he would lose his army, and it would be about the 2 of them against the world, rebuilding it all. And that's where I thought it was going to go. It did not.
It was all about her rebuilding it.
Yeah, her whole life.
Yeah. She went into this mission of I will be queen literally alone. I mean, with what, her brother, Drogo's brother?
Yeah, a couple of her brothers-in-law. So that by the time they got to Ned's beheading, it wasn't that I saw it coming. It was just like, that's tracks. It was all very much, this tracks.
Main characters are gonna go.
Yeah, this tracks.
Yeah.
I'm buying this.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into Dexter, more specifically, the most recent season.
The return season.
Which I did not finish. I watched maybe 3 episodes. Maybe even less than that. I don't remember when What's-His-Face came in.
Clancy Brown, like the 2nd episode.
Okay, so I didn't even get that far. And I just had decided, you know what? I'm not into it.
This is an interesting inclusion on the list. Because I didn't really predict anything. I think you just liked my solutions better.
No, 100%. This is where Max writes better television than the people making thousands of dollars doing it. Because I was so disappointed by where they were taking that season, even just in the first episode. And then you and I started talking about it, and you had gotten into a few episodes by then, so you were starting to kind of talk about it, and you were talking about all the different head people Dexter could have had and what would have really happened with Harrison, and what kind of person Harrison would be.
Right.
And they were all better choices than where they were taking the show. I mean, so 10 years he had not killed a soul. 10 years he had lived a perfectly normal life as an ex-serial killer.
Right.
And then literally the first episode he kills someone. And I'm like, you couldn't have even given us something else?
First off, yes.
You couldn't have made the bubbling up more prominent in him to understand why he just decides after 10 years to fucking kill somebody?
Well, here's the thing. I think they tried. I think it was just too short a time.
It was a fucking episode.
Right, that's what I mean. But they had a number of scenes with that douchebag who came in to hunt, of him, and he and Dexter crossing paths.
Yeah, but
and Dexter sort of deciding, oh, this guy's. And the second he was given even the moment of, oh, he killed people and got away with it.
Yeah.
That's all he needed. The second he had any justification, I think what they tried to tell us, and this is, I think, where we differ. So I was willing to go with it. They tried to tell us that he had not encountered somebody who fit the code in 10 years because he'd been living in these small, quiet, rural towns. And the second he did, it all came flooding back. Yeah. That was the missing ingredient, was somebody who fit the code.
Mm-hmm. I think they should have made that
more clear.
Prominent. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So what did you think about the Harrison character?
I ultimately liked where it ended, where it is really his son. He is really there. He's got very deadly urges, but they're not the same that Dexter's. It's not a compulsion to kill. It is a compulsion to help by any means necessary, which is also problematic, but also easier to channel. And again, he has his own fraught, dangerous, terrible road ahead of them. But they established the difference between he and Dexter, where Dexter was looking for an excuse. Harrison was willing to say, oh, okay, no excuses here, and then be fine, not kill him. Or if he could have found, or if a non-violent solution presented itself, like, we're going to present this evidence, he's going to go to jail. Harrison was fine with that. But if it did come to, we have to shoot him, Harrison would be like, yeah, I guess we do. I mean, it was more pragmatic than what Dexter had, but it was still there. And they didn't make him, like I said, they played with it. And again, I was ultimately fine with where it ended. I thought it would have been a lot more fun. You said the idea of reason to kill. For a split second, when I knew Dexter was being stalked by this young man who I immediately pegged as Harrison, as well as they were intercutting it with Dexter sort of stalking the douchebag hunter, my first thought was, oh, he's going to meet Harrison, he's going to declare his son, and then Harrison's accidentally going to get shot because the douchebag hunter.
That's kind of what I thought, too.
Because the douchebag hunter was just being careless, and he was actually going to. He reunites with his son for 10 seconds, and this guy kills him. And instead, they went with some symbolism with a white buck.
Right.
Sure. It made for great imagery with the snow and the white deer, and it reminded me of the kind of stuff that Hannibal tried to play with. But these guys weren't nearly in that visual ballpark as Brian Fuller and crew. And Dexter liked its allegories. It did not do well with metaphor and symbolism.
Correct. Yeah.
Not really. They tried, and they had some, but it wasn't its forte.
I think the fact that they stumbled over it was a good metaphor for Dexter in itself.
Right. But anyway, they killed the deer, not Harrison. And then for a while, I'm thinking, Harrison isn't interacting with other people. Is Harrison there? Is Harrison in his head? And that's what I thought would be fun. Rather than we got the head deb, which was fine. But I think the idea of the next Harrison, the Harrison a generation below him, taking residence in his brain, I thought would have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Deb was the best choice. And I realized why they chose it was because Deb was Dexter's conscience.
Right. And it was also the only way they could bring Jennifer Carpenter back for almost every episode.
Well, yeah. And so you had also mentioned facing all of the people that he had wronged.
Yes. So for those of you who've not seen Dexter, his MO when he was killing somebody, he had a ritual. He was a sick ass for a protagonist. The guy it was some nutty shit. But he had this ritual where, he was the serial killer that killed other killers, blah blah blah. What he would do is he would put pictures of his victims around the room. So they had to face what they did. They had to die knowing why they were dying, what pieces of crap they were, etc. The fact that didn't happen to Dexter when he was dying of his own poor choices, of his own evil, that he had found himself, he had unwittingly constructed the same situation that he had been given to his victims for decades. That they did not take that opportunity to have the mental projection ghost head versions of as many of these people they could get back as cast, wander through and make a comment.
Yeah. And so of those, he only wronged so many people. He was pretty thorough, right, of the people he killed, but eventually he got to a point where he had to kill someone just to keep
And the methods of covering
him
his
from
ass
not getting
caused the
arrested.
death of other people.
Yeah, and so LaGuardia,
LaGuardia, yeah.
LaGuardia, yeah, and then there was another one
Dokes
too.
would have been a good one.
Dokes would have been a good one because that definitely was his doing, even though he didn't. I mean, Dexter didn't kill LaGuardia either.
Right, but
all of them were directly related to something he did.
He wronged her and she died.
Yeah.
That's again, by his hand isn't necessary for me.
Yeah.
It's they're dead due to Dexter's actions.
Yeah. And then Rita too.
Rita. Yes.
And so Head Rita was your like number one choice.
Yes. Well, before the show came out, Head Rita for me that was the best way to tell that story. But I get why they didn't, but it's still the best way to tell it. I think it would have been fun to bring the actor who played her ex-husband back.
Well, just because I love that guy.
Yeah, Mark Palladino.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just all these people who can call Dexter out on some little thing. I mean, they brought John Lithgow back.
Killed in prison too, and that was directly in response to an action that Dexter took. Yeah.
Exactly. John Lithgow came back for 3 seconds. They could have given him more to say on the topic.
I think Harrison putting him on the slab and saying these are all the people, just like his dad did with other killers.
I think
or someone in the police department like Angel, who then just left him on the slab and walked away so that he could then be arrested, because Angel wouldn't have killed him.
Right.
It's against his code.
I could see that. I think the reason I like the Head versions better, it becomes Dexter doing it to himself.
Yeah, that's fair. That's good. I like that too. I like the idea of Harrison doing it.
Yeah, no, it definitely has a different. There's a symmetry to it, but I think ultimately I like the idea that he's doing it to himself.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on this, and having watched many things with you, is that I don't have to ever worry about spoiling something for you. That
spoilers for me aren't. Oh, now that I know I don't want to see it,
watch it. Yeah.
Spoilers for me are. Oh, that sounds cool. I can't wait to see it.
And that's fun for me because then I don't ever have to feel guilty. Even if I'm doing it on purpose, I'm telling you, oh, so-and-so is going to be in the next episode. Or I blurt something out accidentally. Right. Like, it doesn't matter because it doesn't affect your pleasure of watching it. So that's...
So here's the secret behind me predicting shows. Not in every case, but on average. This thing that it's hard to articulate here on our recording, but that you've experienced, other people have, isn't that I know exactly what's going to happen. I have absorbed so many stories and spent way too much attention on them that I don't see the path through. I see, I see the pattern, yeah, but I also see, I'm looking at a show and thinking, okay, there are 3 ways that this is likely to go based on it's a movie. What's it rated? Who's in it? I mean, all those factors.
Also, it helps that every character actor known to man, because when a character actor is in a show, fucking Law and Order or whatever, that guy's the bad guy.
Let me get this straight. They hired William Mapother to be third guy on dock loading boxes? No, they did not. He's the killer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's all I have on the subject. Yeah. Is there anything that you wanted to add to it?
I compare it to cold reading. I come up with 3 different solutions that are likely. And as it plays out, I start eliminating and narrowing it down. So before the ending, I've got it figured out which way they're going to go.
Yeah.
Because, again, and it looks, from the outside, it looks, how did you guess that? It's like, well, I didn't. I saw all the pieces.
Yeah.
My favorite analogy for it came courtesy of you indirectly, is when you had me sit down and watch Chuck. And the whole concept of the Intersect, where they downloaded all the databases of all the intelligence and law enforcement. So he, as a human being, could take all these disparate pieces of information and then draw connections that nobody else could, because all the information was sitting in his head. And I'm thinking, watching it, oh, that's what I'm doing.
I've got the Intersect in my head.
Yes, I only for bullshit. Only for unimportant bullshit.
I don't know any assassins or, We used to joke in the beginning when we first met each other that your phone was your external brain.
Yes.
That you would have to try and get it in your real brain before you could use your phone.
Yeah.
And Auntie and I would always test you. So how, I guess, somehow bring this back around
that's what I'm hoping to. Right. I mean, other than that, I'm obviously very proud of this.
Right. Right.
which I think I have a right to be.
Sure, yeah, I do too. You're very good at it. I guess the question is then, I mean, obviously this is an ego structure that is not unhealthy, that is not detrimental to anyone else. It's not selfish, right? Unless you were to spoil something for someone.
Right.
Does doing that help you make decisions, set boundaries, maintain self-esteem? What are your values?
That's a very broad question.
Yes, it is.
I mean, am I supposed to sum it up in a sentence?
I mean, just for this conversation, just for the sake of the question, name 3 values.
Well, I've got a single sentence
Okay.
that's going to sound like I'm being flippant, but I think I think it'll make sense to people that know me.
Okay.
Be excellent to each other and party on, dude. Again, it sounds like I'm being flippant, but I'm not. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Be nice and enjoy
Yeah.
life.
I mean, I say it all the time. Don't be a dick. That's it. That's all there is don't be a dick.
Be nice, enjoy your life.
Yeah.
And that can take many forms for many people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're genuinely doing those things, not just giving lip service to them, or getting lost all the stuff around it.
Yeah.
All the external distractions. If you're genuinely doing that, whatever form it takes for you, good.
Yeah. So one of your values that I value is that you say that you have no ego thinking that you can change the world or make it a better place, but that you want to make sure that when you die you haven't made it worse, that you didn't contribute to its downfall in some way.
Right.
Yeah. And I like that. I think that is a good way to live, is that I'm trying to just not undo anything.
And that is an active thing.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
That's not just hole up in a cabin and I've achieved it. No, it is an active thing. Because I think by removing myself, that does affect people. And it can negatively affect people. So the idea is to be present as best you can, but always be moving toward making it. By actively trying to make things better, it's not about making them better so much as counteracting your own flaws, your own weaknesses that are going to, almost without thinking, just if you can thoughtlessly be terrible to people. I think I am at my worst when I'm being thoughtless. Because I'm not. I'm not thinking about what I'm doing to somebody else. And which is also why I don't let myself off the hook with things like, well, I didn't mean to. That, for me, it might be a statement of fact, but it is not a statement of absolution.
Yeah. 100%.
And I think I might inform somebody. If somebody asks, why the hell did you do that? My answer would be, I didn't know that I was. And again, that doesn't absolve me of what I did, but it does explain it.
Right. And then you would look at that as being the problem, is that you didn't realize it, right?
That puts the onus on me to be more mindful, and it also informs who I'm dealing with that I have this tendency. It manages expectations going forward as well.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and close. I mean, I think that kind of closed it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Bye, guys.
All right.